This is so incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. I would have found a different way of managing those issues. Now it's just undrivable. It's a miracle if we finish on the podium.
This was Charles Leclerc in his second stint during last week's Hungarian Grand Prix. After he qualified in pole position on Saturday, he was only able to finish 5th, after he got a 5-second time penalty for almost ramming George Russell off the track. And especially this frustrated attempt from Leclerc to keep Russell behind sums up the first half of the season for Ferrari pretty well. Instead of fighting for wins with McLaren on a regular base, they experienced the roller coaster of a season thus far. On one weekend, they were able to fight for the podium, while on others, they were stuck somewhere in the last point scoring positions. However, these struggles are nothing new for the Scuderia. They've been trying to win a championship once again for 18 years now, with even world-class drivers like Alonso or Vettel failing to do that. So in this video, I'm trying to find some explanations and some possible solutions for why Ferrari has been struggling to win a championship once again for so long. Now before we start into this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel in order to not miss out on any future videos if you want to see more of this content. With that out of the way, let's start with the first problem of Ferrari, for which we once again have to remind ourselves of how special and unique a team like Ferrari in today's motorsport world actually is. Most teams in F1 nowadays are based in Great Britain in one way or another. Some have their entire base over there, whilst others only decide to have a certain part of the facility based in the UK. The big exception here are just Sauber and Ferrari, and the reason for why Ferrari is able to do that is because of its long existence and its status in motorsport. It was founded in 1939 and has since become one of the biggest, if not the biggest motorsport brand in the world. So the dream of many engineers to one day work for this team was and still is a massive pulling factor for Ferrari, which is able to still get them the best engineers in the automotive industry. And their long existence has allowed them to build their own infrastructure and connections to suppliers over the years, despite not being located in the motorsport valley. However, this very isolated location, combined with the rich history of Ferrari, can lead to a working culture which clings onto special and sometimes even outdated ways of working. This is nothing exclusive to Ferrari, but it probably happened to them multiple times over the years. And something like this can lead to drivers getting frustrated because they realize they can't really change workflows because the people in the decisive roles are not willing to change. A good example for this are interviews from Hamilton before Spa, in which he says that he called for meetings with certain people from Ferrari in order to discuss with them what he thinks should be changed in order to make Ferrari successful once again. But of course, Ferrari's way of working is not the only reason for their empty trophy cabinets. They are also extremely good at making clumsy mistakes that cost them vital points. Since a few years, Ferrari is known to bring themselves into bad situations that lose them points or even wins because of mistakes that could easily be avoided. And this isn't something that happens to them once in a while, but almost on a regular base. You have multiple situations in which Ferrari ruined the race of one of their drivers because of a bad pit stop.
Weren't ready. Look, they're not even there. There's not a single intermediate tyre in sight.
They came in, whether that was the driver who called it or the team who called it, but the crew weren't ready with the tyres, we don't know. But certainly, tyres weren't ready for Charles Leclerc.
A little look at it again. I'm sure Sebastian Vettel won't want to see this again.
So they're ready for him. There's no surprises. Yeah, left rear slow going on, and then the right front won't tighten up at all.
They just can't get it tightened up before the lights can go green to get him out.
And if it's not a bad tyre change, the by now famous Ferrari strategy team makes decisions that either prevents their drivers from having a good result in the race or from getting a good starting position in qualifying.
And box now, box now, box for hard. Stay out, stay out, stay out.
Fuck! Why? What I do?
Tire, position 5. Multifunction tire, position 5.
But only surely for a few metres. Does he peel into the pits? He does, ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Synchronised swimming. He's gone deep. He's gone on. Range one, on board with Lewis Hamilton. And Sainz just carries straight on.
He pits, and that's going to cost Sainz a lot.
What happened? We're not ready. Wake up, guys, come on!
And sometimes Ferrari is even able to get both of their drivers disqualified because of too worn down skid blocks or too less fuel in the tank after the race, like in China this season. However, there are situations that are even worse than that, because making mistakes is one thing, but another is having to be told by your driver what to do while he's driving in the race.
How many laps to go?
16 laps, and we think to be 5 laps short.
What's the pace of the other people that stopped?
22.6.
Okay, here's the task for you. To fix them to the end, and then what do I have to do to stay ahead?
We come back to you. Be 23.4, 23.5 till the end.
Now, I don't know how often this happens at Ferrari, but if I would be working in a team where I would have to tell my race engineer what he has to do while I'm driving in the race, I don't know for how much longer I would like to work for this team, especially when, in certain cases, you're also getting treated like a rookie who had never driven in F1 before. I mean, what Lewis Hamilton had to deal with during his first race at Ferrari as a 7-time world champion is just crazy.
Just pre-select mode X for the restart eventually. Mode X now. And stay mode charge. Charge button on.
Yeah, no problem. Just don't repeat everything, please.
Understood. 11, 12. Can use K1 you close.
Into it, please.
K1 available.
Yes, I know. Leave me to it, please.
Try to hold the K1. That's for practice. I know it's difficult.
I'm not close enough.
Copy.
I'm not close enough. When I'm close, I'll do it.
Understood.
It seems like Ferrari do not have the best people in the strategy department, and seeing how this has cost them a lot of points and that these problems are known for years now should be very alarming for Ferrari. But despite all of these challenging circumstances, everyone, the team, the media, the fans, expect them to perform at the very best and to fight at the top constantly. And I wanted to have a closer look on some of these groups, starting with the fans, because these are something special in F1. They support the team for all the highs and lows with absolute passion like no other fan base in motorsport does. But they also want to see Ferrari winning races and titles, which puts a lot of pressure on the drivers, especially with the passionate way in which the fans show their love for the team. Now, the Italian media might not be as passionate about Ferrari, but they still have a special relationship with the team, because these can be separated into two groups. There are the normal journalists that care about the sport and are relatively neutral towards Ferrari, and there are also some journalists that want to find some provocative stories to write about the team. Especially the second kind of journalists make it harder for Ferrari to work in quiet, which has even led to certain journalists getting banned from Ferrari's press conferences. And then there's also the nation of Italy. Ferrari is the only team that is the hope for an entire nation, not just its fans. It won't be a bad week for America if Haas doesn't do well. Nor will there be thousands of German households having their weekend ruined if Mercedes doesn't get onto the podium. But for Italy, Ferrari is more than just a team or a car brand. The team represents them in the world, and if Ferrari does well, then the proud Italians will also be a bit happier on Monday morning. But all of these different groups having their eyes focused on the team every race weekend increases the pressure on the drivers even more. And some of them have cracked under this pressure and started to make mistakes. The one that seems to be the most affected by this is Charles Leclerc. We've seen him crash or spin out of races or qualifyings on several occasions.
As Charles Leclerc goes into the barrier at the Variante Alpha.
I'm surprised he wasn't able to reverse out actually. He's obviously been stuck under the tyres.
Well, it's like you're on ice at this stage. There's no way he's going to stop that. Doesn't that look absolutely epic, that Ferrari?
Oh, no, that's going round.
Oh, that's not epic at all. That's Charles Leclerc into the barriers.
Oh, he's dropped it even before he really gets to 6 and 7.
And most of these have happened after he had been with the team for several years. It seems like the longer he races for them, the more pressure he puts on himself to finally be successful with Ferrari. But he isn't the only one. Sebastian Vettel also had multiple situations in which he lost vital points for the championship, with his crash out of the lead at the German Grand Prix in 2018 being the most known one. We had never seen something like this happening to him in his time at Red Bull, nor did Charles make such mistakes in his first years with the team. But apparently the longer you work with the team without success, the harder you try to finally get in the results to bring back the world championship to Ferrari. And those years seem to have also left their marks on them, because when you compare some photos of Vettel or Leclerc during their first days at Ferrari against some later ones, you can see that their time with Ferrari changed them. Now, if something like this might also happen to Hamilton, can only be told in the future. But something else that has plagued the team for years is bad luck. You don't really think about it until you actually start to think about how many times they have ran out of luck. In 2022, Ferrari had several occasions on which they had to retire the car because of mechanical issues, with Baku being the absolute low point where both of their drivers had to retire during the race. And in 2023, it got even worse, especially for Leclerc. He had to retire from 5 races because of mechanical issues or because it got crashed out, with the first one coming in just 26 laps into the new season, and the most heartbreaking one in Brazil, where he qualified in second, only to then crash out on the formation lap because his hydraulics gave up on him. They just couldn't catch a break from getting knocked onto the ground constantly. Now I do know that the other teams also had their fair share of luck over the last years, but I don't know about any team having that much bad luck as Ferrari. And when you seem to have no luck whatsoever in a season, of course you start to get frustrated when you see the other teams finishing in the points or on the podium while you come home with empty hands. But maybe our expectations of Ferrari are too high. What if we are too unfair towards them? I mean, is it the first time that Ferrari is struggling to win a championship for several years? Well, of course it's not. In fact, there have been several times in the team's history where they haven't won anything for multiple years. For example, Ferrari didn't win the Constructors' Championship for 11 years between 1964 and 1975. The only difference between back then and now is that there's a lot more media attention on F1, which might make this a bigger story than it actually is. Don't get me wrong, I also think that it would be time once again for the prancing horse to win a championship, and that they should change something fundamental in order to come back to the front. But this isn't the first time something like this happens to them, and it will most certainly be not the last one. Also, things like the Schumacher domination in the early 2000s gave us a wrong understanding of what Ferrari is able to do on a regular base. Okay, so now that we've talked about Ferrari's problems, let's try to think about possible solutions that could help them fix these. For me, the most important factor would be, as I already said, to avoid these simple mistakes. These have not only cost the team a lot of points, but has also made them look like a bunch of people who don't know what they're actually doing. And I know this isn't nice to hear for the people that are actually working in these positions, but maybe it is time to change some personnel, because Ferrari needs these positions with good men, because these are really decisive. Second, I would say, is to be more consistent with the direction in which they build their car. Especially in the last years, Ferrari had several big changes to their concept during the winter, which has led to them not really having the time to understand the new concept before switching to the next one. Now I do know this is in a bit of a contrast to my point about being more open to changes in the team, but not when it comes to the basic concept of the car. However, I also think a reschedule of the workload for the drivers would be good as well, because it seems like they're not only under a lot of pressure, but also do a lot of the work which could be put onto some other shoulders in the team. That way you could also help your drivers not look like they had gone through a hard time in their life when they leave Ferrari. But those are just some of my ideas for the prancing horse. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Ferrari's current situation and what you would do in order to bring back championship success to Maranello. Thank you for watching, and until then, I'll see you next time.